Most damage does not announce itself. It does not arrive with the drama of a sudden collapse or the clarity of a visible wound. It accumulates in the quiet, in the habitual, in the thousand small daily choices that feel too minor to examine and too comfortable to change. It works in the background of a life that is otherwise functioning, invisibly and without complaint. Until the morning you look in the mirror or catch your reflection in a window and encounter someone who looks more worn than they feel, more diminished than the interior life would suggest, more like someone being slowly consumed by their own patterns than someone actively building toward anything. And the first instinct, in that moment, is to reach for the external fix, the better product, the new regimen, the cosmetic intervention that addresses the surface without touching the source. We live in a culture that is extraordinarily sophisticated at offering surface solutions to depth problems, and extraordinarily practiced at ensuring we never look far enough below the surface to understand what is actually happening. What is actually happening is this: the way we live is written on us. Not metaphorically, literally, the quality of sleep, the management of stress, the relationship with food and movement and the interior emotional life, the chronic low-grade tensions carried in the body as though they are the body's natural state. All of it registers. All of it shows. The face, the posture, the quality of presence that another person encounters before a single word is exchanged. These are not separate from the life being lived inside. They are its expression. The ancient teachers understood this with a precision that predates modern science by 2,000 years. They did not separate the cultivation of the interior from the cultivation of the appearance. Not because they were vain, but because they understood that the person who governs their inner life with genuine discipline produces, as a natural byproduct, a quality of presence and physical bearing that no external regimen can replicate. If this channel has been the space where you come to think more seriously about the life you are actually building, subscribe to Stoic Mindshift. Right now, hit the bell. Stay close to it. Now, let us go into the 10 habits. 10 habits. All of them silent. All of them operating below the level of conscious examination. And all of them, once seen, within our power to address. Habit 1. Carrying chronic stress without processing its stress that is not processed does not disappear. It settles. It settles into the muscles of the face, the jaw held slightly tighter than it needs to be, the brow carrying a persistent tension that is no longer connected to any specific thought, but has simply become the face's default setting. It settles into the posture, the shoulders drawn forward and upward in the chronic protective gesture of a nervous system that has been running a low-grade threat response for so long it no longer recognizes the state as anything other than normal. It settles into the skin through the mechanism of cortisol, the stress hormone that, in sustained elevation, accelerates cellular aging, disrupts collagen production, impairs the skin's ability to repair itself, and produces the specific quality of dullness that no topical product can fully address because the source is not topical. The appearance of chronic stress is distinctive. It is not the appearance of tiredness. Tiredness has its own look, and it resolves with rest. Chronic stress has a different quality, a wearing, a drawing, a slightly evacuated look, as though the person is perpetually somewhere else, even when they are physically present. Because they are. They are in the next problem, the next demand, the next thing that requires management before it becomes crisis. Marcus Aurelius returned to the management of the inner response to external pressure as the central project of his philosophical life. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The strength he was pointing at is not merely psychological. It is physiological. The person who has genuinely developed the capacity to meet difficulty without chronic internal alarm is living in a different biochemical state than the person who has not. And that biochemical state is written on the body with a clarity that no amount of external intervention can overwrite. The first habit to examine is the relationship with stress itself. Not the stressors, those will always exist. The relationship with them. Is there a practice of genuine processing, of moving through the stress rather than accumulating it? Is the nervous system being given genuine recovery, or only the simulation of recovery that comes from distraction? This is not a minor question. The answer to it is visible on your face. Habit 2. Sleeping less than the body requires sleep deprivation has a look. It is one of the most reliably recognizable physical states available to the human observer, and it is not simply the look of tiredness. It is the look of a body in which the fundamental repair processes have been consistently interrupted. During sleep, the body produces human growth hormone, the primary agent of cellular repair, of muscle recovery, of the collagen synthesis that maintains skin structure and elasticity. During sleep, the lymphatic system clears the cellular debris that accumulates during waking hours. During sleep, the inflammatory responses generated by the day's physical and psychological stressors are resolved. Or, if the sleep is insufficient, they are not, and the inflammation carries forward into the next day and the next, compounding across weeks and months into a chronic inflammatory state that registers on the skin as puffiness, redness, uneven tone, and accelerated aging. The eyes. The skin texture. The quality of the complexion in morning light. These are not mysterious. They are the direct readout of whether genuine recovery occurred during the preceding hours. Seneca wrote about the relationship between the quality of the interior life and the quality of rest, with a precision that modern sleep science has since confirmed. Omnia lucili aliena sunt, tempus tantum nostrum est. Everything belongs to others. Time alone is ours. The time of sleep, the genuine, sufficient, uncompromised sleep that the body requires for its regenerative work, is among the most important investments of that time available. And the culture that celebrates its deprivation as evidence of productivity is, in the most literal physical sense, selling us an accelerated version of our own deterioration. The examination here is honest. How many hours? Consistently. And of what quality? Not the hours in bed with the phone, the hours of genuine sleep. And if the number is insufficient, what is consuming the hours that sleep requires? The answer to that question is worth whatever it costs to address. The face reflects it either way. Habit 3. The dehydration that is never quite thirst, the body's signal for dehydration, is not reliable. By the time thirst is felt, the cellular dehydration that produces it has already been underway for some time. And the person who drinks primarily in response to thirst, rather than in deliberate, consistent anticipation of the body's water requirements, is living in a state of mild chronic dehydration that registers in the skin with a specificity that is almost diagnostic. Dehydrated skin lacks the turgor, the internal pressure, that gives it its structure and resilience. It develops a quality of flatness, of slightly collapsed infrastructure, that is distinct from the appearance of aging, but contributes to it substantially and accelerates it over time. The fine lines that are barely visible in properly hydrated skin become more pronounced. The complexion loses its luminosity. The face develops a slight gauntness that no other intervention adequately addresses, because the intervention that is needed is not topical, it is internal. The Stoics were precise about the distinction between genuine need and manufactured desire, and water, drunk in adequate quantity throughout the day, is among the clearest examples of the former. Epictetus taught his students to distinguish between what the body genuinely requires and what the mind has been conditioned to reach for instead: the caffeinated, the sweet, the stimulating. What the body genuinely requires in this department is simpler and more consistent than most people practice. The third habit is the chronic underhydration that is never dramatic enough to feel like a problem. That is its specific danger, It operates below the threshold of discomfort, while its effects accumulate above the threshold of visibility. Drink water consistently throughout the day before thirst instructs you to, not as a beauty regimen, as the basic maintenance of the biological system that produces every other aspect of your physical presentation. Habit 4. The posture that carries your unexamined burdens. Stand behind someone who has been carrying unprocessed emotional weight for an extended period, and the weight is visible, not metaphorically, in the literal physical architecture of their body. The forward head position, the rounded shoulders, the slightly collapsed chest, the overall quality of a person whose body has adapted, over time, to the interior posture of someone who is braced for difficulty, withdrawn from full engagement, protecting something at the center. Posture is not merely an aesthetic matter. It is the body's most continuous and most honest communication about the internal state, about the relationship with the world, about whether the person inhabiting the body is genuinely present in it, or is, in some significant sense, retreating from it. The person who stands fully, who occupies their height without apology, whose shoulders are back not as a performed confidence, but as the natural expression of an interior that is genuinely at home in itself, communicates something before a word is spoken. And the person whose body has been shaped by years of unexamined tension, of chronic protective contraction, of the habitual physical expression of stress and unexpressed emotion, communicates something equally clear and equally prior to language. Marcus Aurelius wrote about the alignment between the interior life and its outward expression with the consistency of someone who understood they were inseparable. Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. B1. The being, the genuine interior cultivation, eventually produces its physical expression. But the relationship is bidirectional. The deliberate attention to physical bearing, the conscious choice to inhabit the body fully, to breathe into its full capacity, to stand with the posture of someone who is not bracing, also influences the interior. Examine your posture. Not once, in front of a mirror, in the self-conscious moment of checking, but throughout the day, in the habitual positions. What does the body do when it is not being monitored? What is it carrying? And is the carrying deliberate? Or is it the accumulated unconscious expression of what has not been processed? Address the interior and attend to the body it is expressing. Both require it. Habit 5. Consuming what inflames rather than nourishes. The relationship between what we consistently eat and how we consistently look is not as delayed or as indirect as the modern habit of compartmentalizing nutrition into its own separate domain would suggest. It is direct, it is continuous, and it is cumulative in both directions, toward the gradual deterioration of the person who consistently provides the body with what it must struggle to process, and toward the gradual enhancement of the person who consistently provides what it uses to build and repair. Chronic inflammation, produced by the sustained consumption of processed food, refined sugar, seed oils, and alcohol in quantities beyond what the liver can efficiently manage, registers on the skin with a specificity that experienced observers can read without being told the dietary history. The puffiness, the redness, particularly around the cheeks and nose, the quality of accelerated aging in the skin texture, the specific dullness that results from a body spending its repair capacity on the management of inflammatory load rather than on the genuine regenerative work it would otherwise be doing. Seneca was direct about the relationship between what we put into the body and the quality of thought and function it produces. Dum differtur vita transcurrit. While we delay making the changes that honesty demands, life passes. The delay in addressing the dietary patterns that are silently producing their visible effects is itself a form of the self-deception that the philosophy we are building here does not permit. The fifth habit is not dramatic excess. It is the consistent, unremarkable daily pattern of consuming what inflames rather than what nourishes. The processed breakfast. The lunch assembled from convenience rather than deliberate choice. The evening consumption of alcohol as the standard mechanism of stress transition. None of these are individually catastrophic. Collectively, across weeks and months and years, they are writing something on the body that is not easily unwritten. Eat deliberately. Not with the rigidity of someone who has turned nutrition into another source of anxiety, but with the genuine attention of someone who understands that the body being asked to present well, to function well, to endure the demands of a disciplined life, that body needs to be given what it requires to do so. Habit 6, the expression that has become the face, is a muscular system. And like all muscular systems, it is shaped by the movements it most consistently makes, the expressions we return to most frequently. The habitual furrow of concentration that becomes the permanent 11 between the brows. The jaw tension that becomes the slightly squared, hardened quality of the lower face. The downward pull of the corners of the mouth that becomes the resting expression of someone who has been quietly disappointed for a long time. These are not simply moods passing through. They are training sessions. And the face, trained consistently enough by the same expressions, adapts. This is not a small thing. The resting face of a person who has spent years in chronic anxiety or unprocessed resentment, or the low-grade disappointment of a life not fully inhabited, is distinguishable, not because they look sad or angry in any obvious moment, but because the architecture of the face is adapted to expressions that were never fully released. Marcus Aurelius understood the relationship between the interior and its physical expression as inseparable. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. He was not speaking purely metaphorically. The thoughts we inhabit most consistently are the thoughts our faces practice most consistently. And the practice, over years, produces the face. This is perhaps the most intimate dimension of the connection between the philosophical life and the physical one. The person who does the interior work, who processes the resentments, releases the chronic tensions, genuinely inhabits the present moment rather than being perpetually elsewhere in anxiety or rumination, produces a different resting face than the person who does not. Not a performatively serene face, a face that has not been hardened by what has not been released. Examine the resting expression. Not in the self-conscious moment of examination, in the unself-conscious moment when the face is doing what it does when it is not being monitored. What is it expressing? And what interior state is it the accurate readout of? Address the interior. The face will follow. Habit 7. The movement that has stopped the human body was not designed for the static life that most modern people actually live. It was designed for sustained, varied physical movement, and when it does not receive that movement, it communicates its deprivation in ways that are physically visible. The loss of muscle tone that changes the structure of the face and body, the impaired circulation that affects skin color and quality, the lymphatic stagnation that produces a puffiness that is not fat but fluid, the inefficiency of a drainage system that requires movement to function and is not receiving it, the specific quality of physical diminishment that accumulates in the body of a person who is fit enough to function but not moving enough to genuinely thrive. Exercise, genuine, regular, sufficiently intense physical movement, does not merely change the shape of the body. It changes the biochemistry of it. It produces the anti-inflammatory effects that protect the skin. It stimulates the circulation that brings oxygen and nutrients to the face. It triggers the hormonal cascades that support everything from mood to skin quality to the quality of sleep that produces its own cascade of regenerative effects. Epictetus, despite the physical limitations of his disability, maintained physical discipline as a philosophical commitment. He understood that the body under governance, the body that is moved deliberately, that is tested against difficulty, that is maintained with the same seriousness as the mind, is the body that supports rather than undermines the quality of the life being built. The seventh habit is the gradual disappearance of genuine physical movement from the daily life. Not the absence of activity, most people are busy. The absence of the specific, deliberate, sufficiently demanding physical movement that the body requires for its optimal function. And that produces the specific physical quality that distinguishes the active from the sedentary in ways that are visible long before the differences become obvious. Move every day with genuine effort, not for appearance as an end in itself, for the full system effect that genuine physical movement produces, of which improved appearance is one byproduct among many. Habit 8. The screen that steals the hours before sleep. The hour before sleep is among the most consequential hours of the day, and it is the hour that most people are spending in the way most directly opposed to what the body and mind require from it. The blue light emitted by screens suppresses melatonin production, the hormone that signals the body's transition into the sleep state, and that coordinates the cascade of regenerative processes that sleep enables. The content consumed on those screens, the news, the social feeds, the stimulating entertainment, activates the nervous system in precisely the opposite direction of the downregulation that genuine sleep requires. And the result is not merely delayed sleep onset. It is degraded sleep quality across the entire night, with all the physical consequences that degraded sleep produces and that compound across every night. The pattern continues. The face that results from years of consistently compromised sleep has a look that is distinct from tiredness. It is the look of a body that has been regularly denied its most fundamental regenerative process, that has been asked, night after night, to repair and rebuild with insufficient time and insufficient depth to do so. That has been aging faster than it should, because the primary mechanism for slowing that aging has been consistently interrupted. Seneca wrote about the relationship between the quality of the evening and the quality of what follows it. Before going to sleep, examine the day. The examination he prescribed was a deliberate, reflective winding down, the opposite of the stimulation and passive consumption that the modern pre-sleep hour typically contains. He understood the evening not as the continuation of the day, but as its completion, the transition from engagement to genuine rest, prepared for deliberately, rather than stumbled into accidentally after the screen has finally released its hold. The eighth habit is the screen in the hour before sleep. Small enough to feel trivial, consistent enough across years to produce effects that are anything but. Remove it. Not forever, not with the rigidity of an absolute rule, but with the genuine seriousness of someone who understands what those hours are being traded for and has decided the trade is not worth making. Habit 9. The emotion that has never been expressed. The body stores what the mind will not process. This is not mysticism. It is the well-documented physiology of the stress response operating in the specific conditions of an emotion that has been suppressed rather than allowed its natural completion. The grief that was never fully felt settles into the body as chronic tension. The anger that was swallowed rather than processed produces the jaw tension, the shoulder holding, the specific quality of physical bracing that the face and body maintain long after the specific provocation has passed. The anxiety that has no outlet produces its own cascade of physiological effects that register in the skin, the posture, the quality of presence. Epictetus drew the distinction between genuine Stoic acceptance, the full feeling and processing of difficult emotions, followed by the deliberate choice of response, and the suppression that wears acceptance's clothing while producing entirely different effects. Men are disturbed not by things, but by the opinions about things. The opinion that a difficult emotion should not be felt, that it is weakness to feel it fully, that the discipline of the philosophical life requires its elimination rather than its examination. This opinion is not Stoic. It is the suppression that Stoicism was specifically designed to correct. The genuinely examined emotion, felt fully without being acted on impulsively, then processed and released, does not settle into the body. It passes through it. The suppressed emotion does not pass through. it finds a home. The ninth habit is the long-term suppression of emotional material that the body is storing because the mind has not provided the conditions for its processing. Not the dramatic emotional history, the ordinary accumulation of unexpressed feeling that most people carry without identifying it as the source of the physical holding it produces. Create the conditions for processing. The writing, the honest conversation, the practice of sitting with what is there rather than managing it into silence. The body will reflect the release. Habit 10. Living without a reason that is larger than comfort. The final habit is the most difficult to name and the most pervasive in its physical effects, because its mechanism is not biochemical in the direct way that the preceding habits operate. Its mechanism is meaning, and the absence of meaning has a look. Viktor Frankl, who arrived at many of the same insights as the ancient teachers through the specific furnace of the concentration camps, observed that the prisoners who survived, who maintained physical resilience and psychological function in conditions that destroyed others, were almost uniformly those who had something to live for. A reason, a purpose, something that extended beyond the self and its immediate comfort. He was not describing a psychological observation only. The person who has a reason, who is living towards something that genuinely matters, that demands something real from them, that gives the daily difficulties a frame of meaning that transforms them from mere suffering into purposeful cost, carries a quality of vitality that is physically visible. The eyes, the quality of presence, the bearing of someone who is going somewhere rather than simply continuing. And the person without that reason, who is living primarily for comfort, for the management of discomfort, for the maintenance of a life without a trajectory that demands something genuinely important, carries a different quality, not necessarily unhappiness, something subtler and in some ways more corrosive, the specific flatness of a life without stakes. Marcus Aurelius governed an empire and fought internal wars of philosophical disciplines simultaneously, not because he was required to, but because the commitment to something larger than personal comfort was, for him, the mechanism of genuine aliveness. You have power over your mind, not outside events. The power is not merely for self-management. It is in service of something. The service gives the power its urgency. Find the reason, not the comfortable one, the real one, the one that demands something from you. That makes the discipline in the preceding 9 habits not a burden but a preparation. That gives the face the specific quality of someone who is not merely maintaining, but genuinely building. That quality is not producible by any other means. Build the reason, and let everything else follow. 10 habits. All of them silent, all of them operating in the background of the daily life with a patience and consistency that the noisy interventions of the external fix can never match. The ancient teachers understood that the person who governs their interior, who processes their stress, honors their sleep, moves their body, feeds it deliberately, releases what has been held, lives towards something that genuinely matters, produces, as the natural expression of that governance, a quality of physical presence that no purely external regimen can replicate. Not because appearance was their concern, because the fully inhabited life, lived with genuine discipline and genuine purpose, expresses itself in the body as naturally and as inevitably as the ungoverned life expresses its own character. We are not separate from the lives we are living. We are their expression. Govern the life. The expression will follow. One habit addressed at a time, one pattern examined and changed. One dimension of the interior life brought under deliberate governance rather than left to the default that has been quietly producing its visible results. The mirror is not the problem. It is the honest report. Attend to what is generating the report. I'll see you in the next one.